Today on Public Research, the Israeli politician who makes Benjamin Netanyahu look like a Berkeley leftist, Moshe Feiglin, the founder and leader of the Israeli Zehut party.
We're talking about life and death of a nation. Israel right now is sitting in that dark point. I knew from the very beginning where Oslo going to take us. I led the biggest demonstration against Oslo 30 years ago. I sat in jail because of that. Everything I said actually happened before and definitely during the 7th of October.
The Israeli far right has constantly been in the news for the past 2 years of war in Gaza. And over the course of those 2 years, you've likely heard the names Ben Gvir and Smotrich countless times, but neither of those two individuals can speak a word of English. But Moshe Feiglin can, and he'll be running against both in the upcoming Israeli election. He's a former heavy hitter in the Likud party and a past deputy speaker of the Knesset. He's something of an intellectual, too, with his most recent book, Man's Search for Identity, coming out in English later this year. To say he's polarizing would be a vast understatement.
Today, they all know they can start a war against us. They don't care about the casualties and what they're going to lose because they know the Israelis will give it back to them. So the war never ends because they have nothing to lose.
Feiglin is back in the game and hoping to break Israel out of the Oslo chokehold he argues has been leading it down the wrong path for decades. Do you think you have a good shot of getting back into the Knesset in the next election?
The answer is definitely yes. We also have good surveys that put us in a very, very good starting point. And the potential is very good as well. Potential to grow higher the minute we'll have a good campaign and the public will realize that we are in the game. Then those surveys are just the beginning point. Yes, we're aiming to a two-digit figure result. I'm talking about mandates, Knesset members that will get in under the frame of Zehut, my party. Zehut means identity.
Right. And I know you have a book which is coming out, which is related to that.
Yes. My book, Man's Search for Identity. 1 second, I'll show it in Hebrew. This is the book in Hebrew. It's going to come out soon in English. It is on the process of putting it on Amazon, and everybody will be able to get it very easy. It's also being translated to Russian and other languages. And the book describes the forces that led to the 7th of October, why the progressive world, all the arms of a big progressive octopus, and it doesn't matter if it's Greta Thunberg from the environment, or the gay movements, or any other arm of the progress, or the UN, the Health Organization, or so on, all arms of the same progressive ideology are in favor of Hamas. What's the connection between the two? Why the war between barbarism and civilization? Okay, a war that at least at the beginning we all felt that this is what it is. Okay, we have here a barbarian forces that basically putting in danger the entire civilization. Why those forces decide that the front of a civilian world is in Israel and Jerusalem? So it's a book that describes the situation deep through the war in Israel. I think it's a very, very important book in order to continue and in order to the Western civilization to survive.
For the last 2 years in American media, the term the Israeli far right has been constant. There's been all this coverage, and Americans hear about Smotrich and Ben-Gvir constantly. But of course, those two individuals don't speak English, so they have no way of even communicating in American media. I wonder, as someone who's very fluent in English and obviously a talented communicator, if you have any thoughts on their inability to even participate in the English language debate.
I can tell you that at the beginning of the war, about a few weeks after the war began, I gave a long interview to the BBC.
I heard that.
Okay, yeah. Now what happened was amazing. Okay, lucky me, okay, or lucky you, I recorded it, okay, because it was so good that the BBC never put it on, okay, and of course never invited me again for an interview.
My door is fully open to any kind of good relationship with any nation in the world as long as they accept the fact that the land of Israel, the biblical land of Israel, belongs to the Jews.
So your door is open, but solely on your terms.
Oh, I'm willing to talk to you only if you'll give me half of London. Is your door open to me as well with this wish of mine? Can we talk about it?
Punishment, in other words, collective punishment.
What do you
people living in Gaza were punished?
Who do you think the war is against? Excuse me, who is the enemy?
Everyone living in Gaza.
When you fought against the Germans, you fought against the Luftwaffe or against Germany? Answer me. If your prime minister in World War II, when you were attacked by the German Luftwaffe, would tell the British people, we have a war against the Luftwaffe, who would have won the war? You or the Germans? Answer me. On one hand, you're telling me that they are a nation. On the other hand, and on the other hand, when this so-called nation voting by huge amount of 80% for Hamas, you're saying, no, they're not Hamas. They're good people. There are some organic aliens that came from Mars named Hamas, and the problem is with them, not with the poor people of Gaza. You understand the problem. The fact that we're talking about Hamas is another kind of lie, and that's why the war never ends.
I see the smile on your face when I mentioned this interview, because once you come from a deep understanding of what's going on here, once you understand the metaphysics and the physics at the same time, once you understand the geopolitics and the historical facts, right, but you also know how to connect it to the metaphysics, to the spiritual explanation of what's going on, no one can really deal with you. The whole reason why the world, the anti-Semite world today is rising and celebrating is because we Israelis don't stand behind our Jewish roots and Jewish values, talking about the fact that they behaved like savages the 7th of October and waved with the horrible pictures. I knew from the very beginning that this kind of campaign will lead to a terrible anti-Semitism that will rise all over the world, because the Western world is basically saying to itself, okay, for decades, every VIP that came to visit Israel was taken to Yad Vashem, to the Holocaust Memorial Museum, basically saying, look, this is what we got when we did not have a state of our own. And so don't talk to us about justice to the so-called Palestinians, because we have no other choice. Okay, we somehow managed to use this, or to squeeze this lemon, I would say, of the Holocaust till the last drop of justification. And now comes the 7th of October. You have your state. You have the biggest army in the Middle East. You have the best air force in the world, okay? And now you have a Holocaust again, okay? And what do you do when it happens? You have a Holocaust in your own backyard. And what do you do when it happens? You're asking for mercy instead of solving so you're asking me for mercy? So close this. So basically what you're saying, that the whole concept of the state of Israel that you yourself led your justification on did not work. You want me to come and save you. You're waiting for the Gerald Ford airplane carrier to come save you. I don't want to get involved. Go back to where you came from. Give those so-called Palestinians their state. We'll find you a better solution. So basically, when we Israelis do not connect ourselves to our roots, to our message to the world, the reason why we got the Balfour Declaration at the beginning of the 20th century was specifically so because after the horrors of World War I, there was an expectation from the Jews to go back to their homeland and to show the light to humanity that destroyed itself with the new ideals that rise after the French Revolution, the Enlightenment time, okay, that brought us the Industrial Revolution and other, brought also big horrors to the world with the machine guns and the chemical warfare and so on. So maybe when the Jews will come back to the hills of Judea, as they said, a new message of justice and freedom will come out to the world. And it seems like you're just looking to show that you're not different than us, that you're more humane and you're more liberal, and you're not a bunch of savages like Hamas. But hey, at the end of the day, they are the people of the land, and you're sitting on their land, because if you're running away from your Jewish identity, you cannot really say this is my land because God gave it to me. You're trying to be, very secular and enlightenment and Democrats and so on. The bottom line is that when you're running away from your own identity, you're losing your ability to defend yourself in the field of hasbara, as they call it, okay? And then you're losing your ability to exist, to defend yourself altogether. Also, in the inner front, between the Israelis and themselves, you're losing the ability to explain yourself. Israelis today losing faith in the right-wing government ability to win that war.
Right.
So the bottom line is that we have to go back to our roots and create a leadership to the state of Israel that walk the walk and talk the talk of Jewish values, of course, combined with modern concepts, modern state, modern politics, but come from that point, not just survival.
Why don't we go back to October 7th and pretend that you're the prime minister? I heard you say that Israel should have bombed the Egyptian border, and I understand it. It's actually more humane, I guess you could argue, if you're going to bomb Gaza heavily, to allow them to exit, right? But can we play that out can we just say you're prime minister on October 7th? Let's just go day by day. What would you have done?
When at October 7th, or later, or at the night after, when these horrors, came out and people start to understand. I mean, I would say the night between October 7th and October 8th, okay? Israel had a golden opportunity, a window of opportunity, I think, of about 10 days. It remained open for about 10 days, where everybody was shocked from all sides. I think even Hamas were shocked from their amazing success of their own, okay? But definitely the Western world was shocked. The Arab world everybody was shocked and expected a total different reaction of what they used to get until today from Israel. Everything that Israel would have done at that point would have gotten some kind of understanding, if not even a full support. Okay, we're talking about a window of opportunity, a new conscience in the world, the understanding that all the rules were broken. Israel is going to break all the tables, all the rules. Something amazing is going to happen here. I can tell you that in Judea and Samaria, not in Gaza, in Judea and Samaria, Arabs piled up their private cars and started to go to Jordan. Okay? Just to give you an idea of how much that understanding was in people's bloodstream, in their bones. Everybody expected the worst from Israel, okay? Because hey, what we saw at the 7th, I don't need to tell you again what we saw at the 7th of October, but every country who seems to have a bit of willing to exist would have acted at a situation like that in the most brutal way, okay? Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, okay? No German soldier crossed the English Channel and did what Hamas did in the English cities, okay? Yet, when the wheel of the war turned around, the Royal Air Force literally burned to ashes Dresden and Hamburg and every German city they could reach to, okay, including men, women, and children, okay, with no humanitarian zone, no Japanese soldier crossed the Atlantic and did the same thing in Los Angeles. Yet when the American got to the Japanese island, they burned to ashes about 80% of Japan before the atomic bomb. Every city they got men, women, and children. So we're talking about something that was definitely expected after such a horrors. So at that window of opportunity, if Israel would have destroyed the fence that Israel itself built in the Egyptian border and push the popularity of Gaza, all the popularity that are not in the tunnels right now, to Egypt, to El Arish, for example, okay? Of course, the Egyptians would not be happy about it, because their strategic is to keep Gaza going as a time bomb against the existence of Israel. All the weapon, not some of the weapon, all the weapon that we saw butchering our kids and women by the hands of Hamas came from Egypt, okay? Came from Iran, but through Egypt, through the port of Alexandria, okay, in Egypt. So the Egyptians would love to keep the situation as is, and that's as it is, and that's why they're not letting their brothers and sisters from Gaza to run away to Egypt. But at these 10 days, Israel could have done that, and then simply close all supplies of water, electricity, energy, gas, and so on, that they need in order to breathe and survive in the tunnels. And whoever wants to drink a cup of water will have to come out with one of the hostages. That was the thing that Israel had to do immediately. The 7th of
But if you destroy the Egyptian fence somehow, would you pretend it was an accident? Oops. Oh,
No.
oops. No, you would just openly do it.
No. When you understand that all the rules were breaking, and now there are going to be new rules. Now, the most important thing is to understand that the 7th of October is a direct result of the Oslo process that brought these savages from Tunisia to the city of Gaza, and the continuation of that, the disengagement plan that 10 years later gave them the whole Gaza Strip and destroyed the Jewish villages over there. So you have to understand that the 7th, if I was the Prime Minister of Israel, I would see the 7th of October not just as a Holocaust, minor Holocaust that happened but also as an opportunity to throw away Oslo and the concept of the disengagement plan to the garbage of history and rebuild Gush Katif and the Gaza Strip as part of Israel, just as it really is. As Gaza, the city of Gaza, the whole Gaza Strip is definitely a part of the land of Israel, the Holy Land.
Do you think the Trump, whatever you want to call it, the relocation Gaza thing he floated in the press conference, what's your sense? Is that, I mean, he said a lot of things. Remember, he was talking about making Canada a state. He was talking about Greenland. He says stuff, he forgets it. Is that real? Is there actual work being done on that? What do you think?
I don't know what is real from the Trump administration side, but I can tell you that from the Israeli side, it was never taken for real. It was the Israeli leadership, the military leadership, and Netanyahu never really tried to advance that concept, even though it was something that people started to talk about it after Trump put it on the table. But for few reasons that I'm writing about in my book, by the way, okay, Israel is doing exactly the opposite. Well, I would say the Israeli Defense Forces, the GSS, mainly the GSS, is actually blocking the people of Gaza from running away from Gaza.
How so?
Well, we're touching a very, very sore point.
Okay.
But we have to put it on the table. For, I would say, 15 or 20 years at least, all the major leaders of the defense forces in Israel, the chief of staff, the head of the GSS, the Shabak, not being appointed to their position without the approval of the United States of America. Without Israelis knowing that fact, the very basic sovereignty was taken away from us and given to the Americans mostly by the government of Netanyahu, or with the permission of who was the prime minister in most of that time. Notice that when Netanyahu fired his defense minister, he chose the one night that he will not get immediately a phone call from the President of America, and that was the night of the election in America. At that night, yes, and right after, he publicly promised not to continue and fire the chief of staff and the head of the GSS. And why? Well, now you understand why.
Has there been any moment where Israeli leader Netanyahu said, "I want this guy," and American leadership said no? Can you point to it?
Well, it is not something that...
It's more consensus. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So when you're asking me why just to come back to the subject, why the Israeli Defense Forces are not participating in that plan, and because of that, Netanyahu is also not participating because he will not go against the army and the GSS in that very simple plan of just open the gates of Gaza and the problem will resolve itself. They want to leave. There are only 100,000 Gaza Arab residents, which call themselves Palestinians, a nation that do not exist, by the way, okay? So there are only 800,000 Gaza residents that are left, and all of them, 100% of them, are willing to give. They paid each one $10,000, and for them it's a lot of money, before the 7th of October in order to Hamas let them go. They want to go. There are many places in the world they can go to. Israel can help with that. The problem would have been behind us a long time ago if not some major forces in Israel are not working only for the Israeli interest. Very simple.
Two questions. I heard former General Amir Avivi say that Netanyahu had tasked Mossad with finding countries that would take Gazans. Do you think that's true? And then I guess the IDF higher-ups would probably say to you, this isn't our job. What do you want us to do? It's 2 years after October 7th. You want us to bomb the border now, today? They would probably say, you got to find some countries that are willing to take these people, right?
Look, there'll be no solution to Gaza and no way to win that war in Gaza when those savages, those Islamo-Nazis are still there. And when I'm saying Islamo-Nazis, I'm not talking about Hamas. I don't care if their name is Hamas, if their name is Islamic Jihad, if their name is the Palestinian Authority. I don't see any difference between all these, okay? And yes, there is an entity over here. It's not a nation, but it's definitely not individuals. It's not individuals that attacked us who had some private criminal calculation or deal, something to open problem with the residents of Kibbutz Be'eri or Nachal Oz. Okay, we're talking about an entity that chose its leadership, that armed itself to the teeth, that prepared himself very, very well, and declaring all the years all they wish as an entity, not as individuals, to kill all the Jews, to destroy Israel, and they are the enemy, not Hamas. And as long as we're leaving it as is, we're going to get many more 7th of Octobers and many more hostages in the future, okay? So the bottom line is that these 100,000 members of that entity should leave, should not exist there anymore, okay? Not just the Hamas, all the population of that Islamo-Nazi entity. And just as the Americans knew how to make more than 10 million Germans who lived for decades, generations and generations, in Czechoslovakia, in Poland, in Hungary, and other places in East Europe, back to their homeland, back to the middle of the destroyed Germany, walking through a whole world on their feet. Okay, you can watch on YouTube many films, videos of that, and just as
India, Pakistan, 1948.
India,
yes.
Pakistan,
But
400,000 so-called Palestinians were forced to leave Kuwait after the first Gulf War,
right.
going to Jordan. And I continue more and more and more. That is the only solution. And now, when Trump spoke about it as well, Israel should do it. The only
should do what? Should do what?
One second. Avivi was right. These orders were given by Netanyahu to the GSS, to the army, and so on. But just as Trump knows to say and do few things at the same times that sometimes contradict each other, also Netanyahu knows how to do it. There was never a real, serious, focused effort from Israel to go in that direction.
But the window, don't you think the window's closed, right? Isn't the Egyptian army there? They reinforce the border. You still.
Well, of course now
Yeah.
we
Right.
passed those 10 days, this window of opportunity, and of course now it'll be much harder. But there's no other solution.
Okay.
So we can keep on, spilling
Right.
our own blood of our children, of our soldiers, losing the war, not achieving any kind of a victory over here, inviting a new 7th of October to come, or aiming to that direction, and we can still do it. Maybe not forcing the Egyptians, declaring war on the Egyptians tomorrow morning, but there's other ways to do it. If you want me to talk about it, we can.
Let me put to you my take on the situation in Gaza and get your thoughts on it. Netanyahu seems aimless. He's playing these cards, I would say, like the bombing card, the aid card, they failed. There's one card, though, that Israel really hasn't played, which I would say is much less bloody, but I think would be much more effective. If every month that Hamas holds the hostages, Israel took 3.65 square kilometers of Gaza, 1% of Gaza, permanently annexed it, raised a flag, dedicated it to October 7th victim on TV, and just said, every month you don't give it, we're just going to take. What do you think about that approach?
I don't like it, Daniel. I'll tell you why. Because the Gaza Strip is part of the land of Israel, not because they're holding hostages, but because God gave it to us. These terrible agreements in Oslo, where we gave up officially on our own homeland, blew up in our face. We have now an opportunity to say the truth, to throw the Oslo concepts to the garbage of history, and simply say, we understand we did a mistake in Oslo. We understand we did a mistake in the disengagement plan. We understand that it was a terrible mistake to agree with the idea that there is a Palestinian nation, the biggest lie, the biggest invention and lie of the 20th century. These people have the right to our homeland, to our Holy Land, just as we are, as Netanyahu said in the Bar Ilan speech a few good years ago already. We were wrong, and we paid the price, the full price for our mistake, and that's it. The whole Gaza Strip from now on is part of the state of Israel, and no member of this Islamo-Nazi entity that we, with our stupidity, let grow on our own homeland will be able to remain here. So, because we are very humane people, we are not cruel as the British people were against Germany. Japanese cities and as the Americans were to civilians in Japan, we're going to let them go and not simply kill all of them, okay? And we're going to let them, and we're going to really let them go. We're going to push all of them to the what's called Muasi, which is basically the west-south place touching the Egyptian border. And from there, from tents, from kind of refugee camps, they will be able to go to wherever they want. For example, the French declared that if they want to be they want to ask for a refugee position in France, they will willing to take some. Countries in Africa, South America, many countries that Israel can send them. Whoever has problems with what happens to them and care for them is invited to come and take them. Of course, there are 22 Arab countries. I'm sure that they will be very happy to help their brothers and sisters. Look what's going on here. Of course, I'm being cynical. The Egyptians, who has a border with them, okay, are closing the border, and who is to blame over here? The Israelis who they attacked. So
did you hear that Egypt wanted to join the genocide case, but you know why they weren't allowed to, right? Because they would have been obligated to open the border. It could have been.
Yes.
So
I will say it again. The Egyptians are learned the weakness of Israel, that in order to have so-called peace with Egypt, willing to give away the future of the coming generation. The most dangerous enemy today of Israel is not Iran, it's Egypt. It's against the Oslo, against the Camp David agreements, building the biggest army in the Middle East right in our border. And let me tell you something. 5 minutes from, or not 5 minutes, but an hour of a tank of driving from the border to Beersheba, okay? They're not preparing all the army there against Sudan or Ethiopia. It's on their other borders. They're preparing it openly and talking about it against Israel. So we have to understand, under the cover of peace, that melting the Israelis and blinding the Israelis' eyes, the Egyptians see as their biggest interest that this time bomb of the Gaza Strip will remain ticking, will keep on ticking.
Yeah, I mean, it's the proof. I always say that it's the proof that the people who allege genocide in Gaza don't believe it, because if they did believe it, you would hear them demanding Egypt open the border constantly, but they never do that.
Of course.
I want a quick historical question, then come back to the present. In 1967, the way that Israel ended that miraculous war, do you look back and see a missed opportunity there or a mistake there, or no?
Of course. The biggest mistake happened on the Temple Mount. Look, the whole Zionist conscience was not prepared for the challenge of the Temple Mount and the united Jerusalem, because Israel, the state of Israel was built by the Zionist movement as a civilian state, I would say. Okay, we tried to create a new Israeli identity instead of Jewish identity, and not a new layer on top of the Jewish identity. And in this Israeli new civilian conscience, Arabs are Israelis just like as Jews are, okay? Because we want to be a nation like all the nation, or as Netanyahu wrote in his first book, We just want to have our place among the nation, but instead of being a light to the nation. Okay, so we try to create a new kind of identity, an Israeli identity based on the Jews, of course, but our national identity will not be the covenant between the Jews and their Father in heaven on Mount Sinai. It will be like any other nation, a covenant with the land, only with the land. Well, that do not work. If your history starts in 1948 and not 4,000 years ago or 3,300 years since Mount Sinai, okay, since this covenant. So this new kind of nationalism that we created in 1948 lose its ability to justify itself. We cannot say the land is ours and not the Arabs. What gave you justification to throw away to destroy 600 Arab villages in 1948 just because of what the Germans did to you at the Holocaust? If you cannot say this is my land because God gave it to me, okay, then your hasbara is not going to work. Okay, PR is not going to work. So that civilian conscience that met this tremendous gift that we got from God in 1967 was not ready to observe the challenge, and we did a lot of mistakes since then.
I should have phrased the question differently. Well, basically, what I was getting at, but I didn't say explicitly, was some Israelis that I know believe there was, as you would talk about October 7th, a missed opportunity to do something which probably what you would have done on after October 7th would have been sort of shocking, to basically do, what's the phrase? Finish 48, basically. Yes. Not that it was, and I wonder if this is just the Occam's razor truth of the Israel-Arab conflict, that creating these two limbo regions, Gaza, the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, which are, it's not really clear what are they. Are they in Israel? Are they outside? Are they citizens? Are they not citizens? That was a mistake, that maybe instead Israel should maybe they couldn't have. I wonder what you think, have done more, like you said, India, Pakistan, more population transfer, just ended the whole conflict there? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, to say that the fact that Israel gave away the keys for the Temple Mount to the Muslim Waqf in 1967, and did not throw out all the Gaza Islamo-Nazi residents immediately at the 7th of October, to say that it was just a mistake and that's how to explain it. What can we do? We could have done it, but now it's too late. We should have think about it before. I think that's too simple of an explanation. Okay. The Israelis are not that stupid, okay? It's not a lack of wisdom over here and missing opportunities. It's a lack of vision. It's a lack of vision. Israel did not want to free Jerusalem. The government of Israel in 1967 did not want to take back Jerusalem. Only 2 ministers in Eshkol's government in before 1967 said we have to take Jerusalem back. It was Menachem Begin and Yigal Allon from the labor, not even one from the religious parties. Just by the way, they didn't want. We don't need all this Vatican, said Moshe Dayan in 1967. So why the Israeli leadership in 1967 did not want to free Jerusalem? Okay, and basically was forced through the war to free Jerusalem, because Jerusalem carry a message of identity that it's in a contradiction with the concept of civilian state and civilian Zionism and so on. We didn't want it. We don't want it. Until today, we don't want it. And from the very same reason, we did not win the war in Gaza until today, because winning the war in Gaza means throwing away the Oslo concepts that's still running the whole ball game, still being the frame of the way the Israeli leadership function. And so why is it so important not to give up on Oslo? Because when you give up on Oslo and you're taking the Gaza Strip totally, and you can do it easily this way, when you know what you want to gain, you can take the whole Gaza Strip very easy and very fast, just as you did in 67 and 56. Okay, why they're not doing it? From the same reason. If you're throwing away Oslo, you're giving up. If you're throwing away the Oslo agreements, the Oslo concept, okay, and you basically say, it didn't work, I'm going to take the Gaza Strip, I'm going to flourish the land again, build Gush Katif. Gaza is going to be an Israeli city, just as we did with Ashkelon and Beersheba and Ashdod in 1948, and north of the University of Tel Aviv, for example, that sits on the ruins of Sheikh Munis in 1948. The leftist University of Tel Aviv sits on the ruins of an Arab village, of a so-called Palestinian village, if you didn't know, and so on. Just as we had the justification to do it then, that is the only solution. We'll do it now also, because it is our land, because God gave it to us. So if you do that, you have to face again your Jewish identity on a national level, because you cannot justify an act like that without saying, this is mine.
Yeah.
And in order to say this is mine, you have to lean on your Jewish sources.
Are you ready for the hard questions?
Of course.
Okay.
It was easy. Up till now it was easy.
Yeah, no. But let me just say this. I love Israel. Israel has to win. I'll tell you why. Anti-Semitism in America it's very bad. It's very bad. It's getting...
and it's nothing compared to what happens in Europe and Australia and Canada.
Yeah.
Still nothing.
And I think you know that, so I don't have to convince you. But I think we have some disagreements, so let's get into that. So I find you a fascinating thinker. That's why I listen to you. I even listen to your Hebrew streams translated, okay? And I think your argument, I watched your talk in Skokie from 2009, I think, and you told a story about a Lebanese Hamas guy in a prison, and he saw that Israeli was not keeping kosher, and he said, then I knew we could beat Israel, because they don't believe it.
There was nothing to do anymore. We'll just take the crumbs that the Israelis will throw to us, and that's it. There goes the dream. And I was ready to give up. And we're talking about a leader that was, and still, a hero in the streets of Ramallah and Shechem. I was ready to surrender. I was ready to give up. There was nothing to do anymore. Suddenly, I saw something that captured my sight, captured my eyes. I saw an Israeli soldier on duty, eating pita with hummus, and I knew it is Pesach time. That's the story that Salah Ta'amri himself tells Nahum Barnea. And I was surprised. How come an Israeli soldier is eating chametz on Pesach? I know that it's against your religion, against your Judaism, against everything you believe in. So when the guard passed next to me with a pita in his hand, I asked him, why are you eating chametz? Are you allowed to eat chametz on Pesach? And the Israeli soldier answered him the following. I don't see that I have to do and act today upon
something that happened to my people 2,000 years ago. That was the answer of the Israeli soldier. And Salah Ta'amri keep on giving this interview to Nahum Barnea, told him, that evening, I understood that this terrible enemy that defeated us is weak, is worthless. They have no roots. I could not sleep the whole night, he says. And in the morning, I got together all the prisoners in the Ansar camp, and I told them, we are not giving up. We are not ready to make any concessions for crumbs and whatever the Israelis will give us. We're going to fight for everything. For Tel Aviv, and for Holon, for Haifa, for Akko, and of course for Ramallah, and Hebron, and Jerusalem, and everything. Because they have no roots, and that kind of enemy, we're going to win.
And I think your argument about Israel in regard to the Arabs has a lot of merit, probably. The thing that's interestingly absent from your equation is, okay, you have to calibrate actions for the perception to the Arabs, but don't you also have to calibrate your actions to the West, too?
I think that when we connecting ourselves to our identity, the Arabs, of course, will understand us much better, and also the West. Just imagine, you have big anti-Semitism wave in America, but I don't need to tell you who are the hardcore of the voters of Trump, okay? I mean, America, it's fascinating, is the most religious country in a democratic world. The second one, by the way, it's Israel. Israel is second to America in the belief of its population. As individuals, not as a country, as individuals, of course. The Bible Belt, you have 80 million evangelists or so in America, and many more, much more than in the rest of the world. And what is their motto? Those who bless you will be blessed, and those who curse you will be cursed. That's their motto. Just imagine an Israeli prime minister that talking that language, of course, in a modern language, not as a priest, not as a rabbi, talking about politics, but making very clear what is the set of values that the leadership of Israel is leading upon, okay, and turning to the world, and turning to these most of the population of the world that believes in the Bible, and even the Arab world that believes in the Quran that says that the land of Israel belonged to the Jews. The only reason, the way they identify, the way they deal with that, say in the Quran is, yeah, but the Israelis are not Jewish. They are just Zionists, colonialists that came from Israel. They don't behave like Jews. When a leadership of Israel will start standing frame behind the Jewish faith and saying to the entire world, hey, you all see, you all know deep in your heart who is the good side here and who's the bad side, who represent the basic core of the Western civilization, and I would say of the monotheistic civilization that based on the Ten Commandments and the appearance of God through the people of Israel, okay? I would have said the opposite, the appearance of God through the people of Israel and the moral code of the Ten Commandments, okay? They all believe in that, okay? So, and these savages, these Islamo-Nazis, you all understand that when they attacking Israel, they're attacking your civilization. Now, who do you want to win? These savages who looking to destroy the entire civilization and combine themselves, talking about the Islamo-Nazis, combine themselves with the other side of the ideology, with the other ideology who looks to destroy the entire civilization. I'm talking about the progressive ideology, who destroy all the basic foundation of civilization, of identities, okay? the family identity, the human identity, the national identity. These are the basics that build civilization altogether. So both ideologies, the Islamo-Nazi ideology and the extreme progressive ideology, who's looking to destroy civilization, see Israel as a representative of Jews and basically representative of God, okay, as the enemy that they have to destroy in order to destroy civilization, because the whole civilization is based on our message.
Right.
So now, do you want to be you as believers in this, say, those who blessed you will be blessed and those who cursed you will be cursed? Do you want to be with the blessed side of humanity or with the cursed side of humanity? If you want to be with the blessed side of humanity, come with us. I believe that kind of policy, not only that will not be acceptable in the West, but when the bell will ring, suddenly a wave of positive reaction to Israel will rise.
I would say it's a high risk, maybe high reward thing. It's very interesting because I think you said once the world was looking to Israel and to the Jews after October 7th to see if the Jews would behave like the Jews or something like that. And that's true of like evangelicals, as you mentioned. I guess it's sort of a debate between, like, there's a lot of people who could make a fairly strong argument that the whole world was looking towards Israel and has been looking towards Israel for things to demonize it for, right? So I guess the question is, are there more of those people or more of the people you're talking about?
No, excuse me for disagreeing with you on that. That is not the correct question. The question is, what is the truth? Because once I believe that when you're touching a true point at the end, you're convincing everybody. Everybody knows the truth, and if you're not running away from your own truth, the world will come with you. And besides that, we have no other way. We tried so hard to run away from our identity, from our message, from who we should be, and we got the 7th of October, and we got, instead of love from the world, we got tremendous hate, tremendous wave of anti-Semitism, on top of the most justified war that we ever had. So, hey, it's about time we'll understand that something is very, very wrong in the way we behaving and in the way we acting, and take 180 degree turn. You make a real serious U-turn over here and start base our policy and our PR campaign all over the world on total different concept.
I think I disagree with you on some stuff, but one point I remember hearing you make that made such sense was the way that Israel has talked since Oslo has been, we're these colonizers, we want to compromise, while the Arabs say it's our land, they don't deserve even 1%, and so people are convinced by that sort of conviction.
Well, yes, I'll say it again. Let me tell you what the Israeli PR claim basically is saying through all the year, or at least since 67. Okay, basically what we're saying is the following. We're saying, yes, it's true that in 1948 we took over a land that mostly was held by Palestinians, so-called Palestinians. Okay, 600 villages were destroyed, but we had no other way, because they burnt us to ashes in Auschwitz, and we had nowhere to go, so we had to do it. And it's also true that 19 years later we took over another piece of land, the Judea and Samaria, until the Jordan River. So we're willing to cut a deal. We'll give you the poor Palestinians, so-called Palestinians, what we robbed from you in 1967, and you will give up on what we robbed from you in 1948. This is basically what we're saying. If I would have been an American student in MIT,
Right.
I would join the demonstrations against Israel.
I think that's a profound point. So here's my question. There was an Israeli rabbi who I saw speak in Chicago, and I talked to him, and I said, have you ever spoken to Moshe Feiglin? And he said, yeah, I did a debate with him once. And I said, well, what were your impressions? He said, all I can remember is his supreme, I think he might have used arrogance, but no, I think he said total conviction, confidence. Have you ever met Moshe Feiglin?
Yeah, I've even debated him, or well, it wasn't really. I mean, we had some kind of or we were on some kind of panel together. This was many, many years ago, before he was a member of Knesset or anything else. What I remember was his total self-assured arrogance and kind of disdain for anybody who thought different than him. But he is simply a fanatic.
And so here's my question. It's about pragmatism and doubt. There's these videos that they get Nobel Prize winning scientists around a table. They're called Nobel Talks. And I watched it once. And the striking thing about it was how often these guys said, I don't know, I could be wrong, maybe. Doubt, The thing that strikes me about you is you have no doubt. You never say, I might be wrong about this, even if it's, tax policy. Maybe you have. So here's my question. If me and you get into a time machine, we go 20 years into the future, and we discover Israel's been destroyed, would you acknowledge that there's a chance that a right-wing path, maybe even your path, could lead there? In your case, someone on the left would say it would lead to Israel getting the Rhodesia treatment, right? And being isolated and destroyed that way. Well, and there's obviously a left-wing path to destruction. Can you acknowledge that?
Look, it's an important question. I think the real way to look at it is to think about a leader like Churchill, not about a Nobel Prize. By the way, Churchill had a Nobel Prize in writing in literature, but when Churchill turned to his people, okay, when he came instead of Chamberlain basically took the path of Oslo, so-called Oslo, the München agreement. Okay, it said peace on our time. Okay,
Munich, you mean?
Munich.
Yeah,
and that led to World War II. The pragmatic leftist concept in Israel, which was not Munich, it was Oslo, led to the 7th of October. Now come the alternative. Now come Churchill in the darkest hour of England, okay? He's not sitting around a table and thinking of maybe I'm right and maybe I'm wrong, as scientists can, okay? We're not talking about scientific argument over here. We're talking about life and death of a nation. Israel right now is sitting in that dark point. Do you think that Churchill at that time should have said to his people, well, maybe we should try a different path, or come up after he knew exactly, he was happened to be right about what he said all these years. He was happened to be totally right about what will happen from this Munich agreement. He said exactly where it's going to lead, okay? And and everything he said happened to be totally true, and excuse me, from my humble position, I knew from the very beginning where Oslo going to take us. I led the biggest demonstration against Oslo 30 years ago. I sat in jail because of that. Everything I said actually happened before and definitely during the 7th of October. Do you think that now that everything I said happened to be true, I should come to the Israelis instead of a very serious, straightforward alternative with doubts? Maybe this will lead to this and this will lead to that. No, there's a comparison to compare between the two.
I totally understand that. That's not what I meant to ask. I totally get that. On the big issues, sometimes you need to do something extremely unpopular that's, when survival's on the line. I totally get that. I'm saying, let's just talk about it. You say the borders of Israel are the Nile and the Euphrates, okay? Right?
The borders of the Promised Land, of course, not of Israel.
Oh, I didn't know you. So, okay, let me put this. You become PM of Israel in 5 months.
Hopefully, God willing.
And you go to Washington and they ask you a question. Oh, do you want to conquer part of Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt to create this biblical borders? What would you say?
I would say exactly what Trump said when the Sykes-Picot Agreement collapsed and suddenly Syria was a no man's land. Trump said, go ahead and take a third of it. Look how small you are. Look at my entire table. You look like a pencil. Okay? When something like the 7th of October happens, it's terrible, but it's also opportunity to take it over. Why? And what gives you the justification to take it over? Because basically it is also a part of the biblical land of Israel. So Tehran, for example, okay, is not ours. Yeah. But but potentially Syria is, and North Lebanon is. And you should all know, all our enemies around, when you attack us from a land that I did not forget, that was promised to us by God, you're gonna lose it. Yes, you're gonna lose it. Because in a potential, I'm looking at it as potentially mine, potentially belong to the people of Israel. Do not try to give me the opportunity to take back what God gave me, because you're going to lose your land where you're standing today, and you're going to have a real loss. Today, they all know they can start a war against us. They don't care about the casualties and what they're going to lose, because they know the Israelis will give it back to them. So the war never ends because they have nothing to lose. Okay, so this is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Israel should make very clear that the land where Jordan is positioned right now, that was given to them in 1922 by Churchill, by the same Churchill, by the way. Okay, 1920 or 20, I forgot. Right. It was supposed to be a part in the decision of the
British.
No, not just the British. The League of Nations. Both sides of the Jordan River was supposed to be ours. Okay, and it's definitely a biblical part of the land of Israel, and North and South Lebanon, and also at least half of Sinai, by the way. So if you're going to attack us, you're going to lose it for good.
Okay. Now I understand.
This is what I'm saying.
So you're saying, I didn't understand this. You're saying that in that situation, you would say, as a religious Jew, of course I believe in the Torah, in the biblical borders, but you would make a distinction that we're not planning to conquer this year part of Iraq. Is that what you would say, basically?
But if you attack us, if you'll give us a good reason, we'll see it as an opportunity. Yes. Okay. I don't want to look like somebody who's looking for peace. No, I'm not looking for peace anymore. Okay.
Okay. I understand.
And just one little correction, if you'll excuse me.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't like the term of term religious Jew because
Oh, I'm
religion,
sorry.
religion. No, don't be sorry. I'm just
Yeah.
putting something. Judaism is not a religion.
Yeah.
Christianity is religion. Islam is a religion. I'm just Jewish. Period.
Okay. Now here comes
It's a nationality, and it's a whole culture. It's a whole message to the world. It's not just another religion.
Okay, here's my hard question.
Yes.
In the US, Zionist Jews are called Nazis. I think it's disgusting. Would you agree? When they call Jews Nazis for being Zionists, right?
Of course
Okay.
Of course I disagree.
Okay. So I gotta call you on something. So
yes.
you were on TV in Israel, and you used a Hitler quote to make a point about basically it'd be better if the Gazans emigrated. Basically,
He's a former member of the Israeli Knesset named Moshe Feiglin. He is on Israeli TV. I mean, can you imagine if someone were to cite Hitler's plan for the Jews as to how any other party should deal with any other people in the world? But apparently on Israeli television, it's okay as you're talking about Palestinians. How did Hitler, may his name be erased, once say, I can't live in this world if there's one Jew left in it. We will not be able to live in this land if one such Islamo-Nazi is left in Gaza.
How are they the Nazis when I'm citing Hitler's plans positively? So, I mean, like, there's been some pushback to comparing the Israeli government to Nazis, and let's just be clear, that should not, there's no reason that should be, I think, in any way controversial.
and are you aware of how this is covered in America?
I know that they will always take a part of a sentence that I'm saying, and of course take it totally out of context. But that will not stop me from saying the truth.
But do you have to use a Hitler quote?
I don't know exactly which one you mean.
Yeah, as long as there's one Gazan in Gaza, it's a threat to Israel, right? And so you said that there was a Hitler quote where he said, as long as there's one Jew, they're a threat, right?
No, I never said that.
No,
never said that. I never put Hitler in the same sentence with that. I did say, and I'm standing behind saying that as long there will be a one Arab left in Gaza, there will be a threat to Israel. Because this, you listening to me?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Because this Islamo-Nazi entity that we ourselves created in the Gaza Strip, already created through more than one generation, through their education system, okay, a culture that every Arab baby in Gaza with his mother's milk, okay, learn to kill every Jew. You know, even kids okay?
Oh, yeah.
8 years old, 10 years old, crossed the fence and got the match. They gave the little kids the match to burn the Jews. After they tied them and poured gasoline on them, they let their kids burn them. Okay? So you're talking about a culture, a satanic culture that was developed over here. And when it reached that kind of a level, that you cannot have what you had in Germany and in Japan, denazification, new education. We passed that long time ago. That entity should not exist anymore on our homeland in the Gaza Strip. That's what I said. Now, if somebody's starting to use that to compare the Jews, the victims, to Hitler and to Nazis, you know something? I don't care. We have to take care of ourselves.
But you don't care about the effect it might have on. Anyways, it's okay. But
I see what you're saying, and I'll tell you, it's going to be exactly the opposite, Daniel. Exactly the opposite. When the Israelis will start talk like that, just as they did to this guy from the BBC, you saw how he had no way to answer. Okay. Basically, what I told him was, I have nothing to get from you. I'm not depending on your approval.
But you didn't, and I know what you're saying. You didn't quote, but you did mention, you alluded to a Hitler quote, but it was different. But I'm just saying, why would you even give them the chance to frame it as, because the way it was reported is Israeli former Knesset deputy speaker praises, you know how it's going to be twisted. That's all I was saying. Yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying. Maybe I should be more careful in using this sentence or the other, that I can understand. But when you're dealing with this kind of anti-Semites, okay, that will always look to take your quotes totally, not out of contents, but totally upside down, directly the opposite contents of what you meant. You cannot really do anything about it unless you stop being afraid of everything you say. Look, what's amazing over here is, I'll just finish with that with your permission. What's amazing over here is, look what's happening right now, Daniel. The Hamas is publicizing pictures of our hostages look like Muslims in Auschwitz right now. Can you think about the Nazis putting live stream camera in Auschwitz and Buchenwald? No, they tried to hide their what they did, the horrors that they did. Here you're talking about savages. You're talking about a conscience that not only not afraid of their words taking out of context, okay? They're publicly showing what they're doing. So you think that the world, even though they're acting like that, looking at the Jews as Nazis, will change his mind if I'll choose this kind of sentence or that kind of sentence? No, it's exactly the opposite. We should be very firm. We're leaning on our own God, on our own set of values. We don't care what you think over there in the BBC and in MIT and in all these progressive movements. I don't care for what's her name, Greta Thunberg is saying when she's sailing to Gaza. I really don't count them. Okay, why? Because I know I'm right. I know what I represent. I know exactly what I meant. I'm standing behind that, and the whole world will stand behind that as well. We should understand that the world, the whole world, there's like Jekyll and Hyde, okay, Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, okay, in the world conscience. When the Jew stands firm behind what he believes, the good side of the world conscience is winning together with the Jew, and we're getting the support of the world. When the weak side of Israelis who are crumbling down, who don't believe in their own destiny, okay, don't willing to stand behind their own truth, appears as it is now, just waving with the pictures of our hostages and the horrors, then the other side of humanity is rising, and then you get this horrible anti-Semitism all around.
Blood in the water.
And I want to finish with your permission with one thing, which I did not mention.
Yes.
Daniel, my dear friend, if I can say, okay, come to Israel. You have no future in America.
Oh,
come to Israel.
I want to ask, I don't speak Hebrew. I can't read it. So what would your message be to American Jews who are like, I don't read Hebrew? What's your message to them?
You know, my wife family came in 1973, right after the Yom Kippur War. They did not speak one word of Hebrew. Okay, so thank God I have 5 kids, 13 grandchildren, Israelis flourishing the land. You have no future if you want to keep your Jewish identity in any way, if you want to assimilate, fine. But if you thinking of keeping your Jewish identity in any way, the concept of galut, the concept of diaspora is finished.
On practical level,
I hear what you say.
If I don't know the alphabet, am I going to be able to get a job?
The problem with Israel is a high-tech state, more than any other country in the world. Many Israelis, not only on the high-tech industry, works in English. Okay, okay, your English language can help you. Jump! Don't be afraid. Jump! Go into the fog and do it, because if you're not going to come to Israel on your legs, on your feet, you're going to come on your knees. And of course, through you, I'm not talking about just to you.
Thank you for the dialogue, sir.
You're very welcome.